In this lesson, we'll take a look at using something called Substance to add a really quick metallic type texture to some of our pieces. So to create a substance, let's go into the Hypershade, and we can come into Textures, Substance, and we'll just click that to create the node. And then when we actually want to choose what substance we want to use, we'll go ahead and double click on this. And this will ask us to bring in a substance file. So let's go ahead and look for a substance file. So we want to navigate to our program files on our C drive where our Maya installation is. So I'm here in Autodesk Maya 2015. And then we can go ahead and start to look for our substance. So we're going to go to Plugins, Substance, and then we'll go into Substances. And here we'll have a whole list of different kinds of substances that we can create. And I encourage you to kind of play around with these and check out the different looks that you can get. But let's just go ahead and choose aircraft metal. Let's open that up. So it gives you sort of a preview. It's a little bit hard to see it here, but it's using this substance file, and then it has different channels that we can create here: diffuse, specular, normal. We can also see that there is a sort of resolution here, which you can modify if you want to. And so without changing anything, let's go ahead and make a shader network. So we'll say create shader network. And so what that will do is, by default, it'll create a diffuse, specular, and a normal map, which is sort of like a bump map on our material. So it's created a new material. Let's map this out. So this network is a little bit more complicated. So here's the material. Here's our specular map, our diffuse map, and our normal map, and they're all tied together based on this substance node. If we open up this substance node, we'll be able to change some things. But first, let's apply this to our geometry. So let's take and apply it to these legs and the upper legs. Let's do the same thing here. We'll apply it to these arms and over here as well. Let's go ahead and smooth out some of these pieces. And I'll just hit 3 on the keyboard so we can kind of see that. And let's kind of move in, and we can kind of see here that we get this nice sort of metal look. Now we can come into our substance and we can start to make some modifications to it. So let's come down to our substance parameters. So we've got things like scratches. So if we dial those scratches up, you can see that those scratches become more apparent. So if you really want to see a scratched up surface, you can do that. You can also change the hue of the specularity. We can also tile it if we wanted to have multiple tiles, but I just want to have a single tile in this case. All right, let's come down to the bottom, and you can see that there's an option for hue shift. And so we can modify this hue, and you can see it changing, or you can get something a little bit more purple or red. And so we can shift the sort of the color of that. So maybe we want it to be a little bit more teal or green, maybe something like that. We can take the saturation down a little. So if we just want a little bit of that color in there, we can kind of take that down a bit. We can also change the luminosity, make it brighter or darker. Okay, and so you can really come in and start to modify some of these things, and you get not only the color but also the specularity, and you also get a little bit of that raised bumpiness. Let's take our scratches maybe down a little bit more, so we get something like that. Okay, and we can create other versions of this. So let's see if I take this and duplicate it, if that will duplicate the whole thing. So go to Edit, Duplicate Shading Network. And I think that we need to actually go in and choose that substance file again. So let's actually create a new one. And we'll go in and choose that same substance. So we'll choose aircraft metal. Let's create a shader network. And this one, let's apply to some of these different pieces. So this one will do like kind of a gray. So let's smooth those out. And then on this one, we'll choose the substance. And let's take the saturation down. Oh, we've got the original one selected. So let's choose the other one. So this is substance. Let's see if this is the right one here. Take the specularity inside of the substance, not inside of the material. Okay, that's the right one. So now let's apply this material to our shoulder. And we'll do the same thing over here. So we can create some variation here. Instead of having just the green, we can also have the gray metal. Let's apply this first one to our shield up at the top as well. Okay, and then maybe these pieces can have the gray one. And the feet as well. Now you can see on some of these we're getting those bolts. The bolts are actually on the outer edges. So if you do get those, they look kind of cool on this foot, but if you don't want those on there, you can come into your UV texture editor, and then all you have to do, we can get our UVs here, all you have to do is grab those and pull them away from the outer edge, and you'll get rid of those. Same thing here. You can kind of pull those away. I guess it's on this one. Kind of pull those away from the edges. All right, so it's kind of a really quick way to add some nice texture. And there are a lot of different kinds of substances. There's kind of rocky substances and tile and bricks and things like that that you can experiment with. Obviously for this guy, the metal makes a little bit more sense. And you can go in and create multiple substances and then create kind of color variations if you want to. All right, so once we've got that done, the next thing that I want to do is kind of create an interesting effect on the cockpit. So I don't want to put too much detail into the texture, but I want to have it behave in a kind of interesting way depending on how we move the camera. So let's do that in the next lesson.